To put it simply, there are a lot of games. Too many games to count. Many of these waste away, unnoticed by the general public. Some get a small player base, and others get big boosts of popularity. But there are certain games that have changed or are changing the way we look at gaming as a whole. No matter the situation the game is put in as far as popularity, they still manage to leave an irreversible effect on gaming. What are these games that I speak of? What games made such a big impact on the community of gaming that people years from now will still know or start learning about them? That's what I aim to tell you about. Welcome to my new series, Game Changers, where I go over how a game came so far as to change the landscape of the genre forever. Visual novels, for those who haven't heard of them, are basically video game versions of a manga that you can interact with and make choices to change the story. Since they have the connotation of being like anime, not everyone is gung-ho about trying one. For the most part, I can't say I blame those people. Most visual novels are about cutesy art-style anime girls falling for the protagonist of the story, who you play as. Notice, however, that I said most. This is because a singular visual novel that came out around 4 years ago changed that stereotype, but not in the way anyone was expecting. I'm of course talking about Doki Doki Literature Club, or DDLC for short. The original version of the game showed it to be like any other visual novel. The protagonist is begrudgingly brought to his school's literature club by his childhood best friend, only to find he is surrounded by female clubmates who want to get with him. To anyone from the outside looking in, this looks like your typical harem-style visual novel. However, as I alluded to earlier, it gets interesting as time goes on, to say the least. Now, a quick word to anyone who hasn't played this game or at least watched a playthrough. Click off and go play it. Make sure to play the original. Don't buy DDLC Plus until you've played the first game. Trust me, it's better that way. If you think that visual novels are only for weebs, just put your faith in me and play it. Or at the very least, watch a playthrough of it. I'm not going to go over the spoiler part of the story in great detail, but it's better going in mostly blind. And to those that have actually played the game, don't worry, I'll keep the synopsis short. Basically, after a certain point in the game, things go off the rails. After the childhood best friend Sayori takes her own life, the other two girls you could pursue, Natsuki and Yuri, also become worse and worse with their mental stability. After some scares and more death, it comes down to you and the club leader, Monika, who has become self-aware within the game and has fallen in love with you being yourself, not the main character. She made the other characters disappear so you and her could spend eternity together. After deleting her from the game, it all restarts, with Sayori now as the self-aware girl. The brief summary I gave pales in comparison to the brilliance of the game, but I'm assuming everyone who is still watching has at least seen the full game. So now comes the question, what makes this game so different that it subverted the expectation of the visual novel genre for a very long time? Well, it isn't clearly just a visual novel that everyone has come to expect. Instead, it's a fuse of a terrifying horror game and anime, which I believe is a great combination. The best part is how the original game is advertised. The only tip-off that the game was more than it let on was the boot-up screen, where it said that the game was not for those who were easily disturbed. Besides that, which most people ignored, the game did a great job of concealing its dark secrets. And once things picked up, they picked up fast. Speaking of which, the game also included a search for some very creepy images and writings within the game's own files. If you haven't already, I'd recommend you check out the video by the game theorists. They break it down pretty well. In summary, they conclude that the characters from the game are from a different game series that hasn't been released yet. They figured this out through the use of opening the different character files found in the game's file folders with text editors. There were many pieces to fit together, just from a couple files you actually had to see in order to complete the game. The fact that a simple point and click had so much lore and files to explore was exciting to say the least. Many indie games had lore within them, but Dan Salvato and his crew took this to new heights. A game that is truly as scary as DDLC will never be created again, because everyone in the visual novel community now knows that secrets can be lurking later in the game. Other game developers can try and replicate this hype, but it can never meet what Dan Salvato and his team managed to create. With this alone, the game had already changed the horror and visual novel community for years to come. However, as you might expect, many fans were waiting for the game alluded to by the extensive hidden files to be released. And while the years passed, nothing was really said about it. Many people wondered if this game would ever come out, while others claimed it had to, after all the effort they went through to hide this game's teaser. Finally, in June of 2021, the new game was announced. Well, not exactly how everyone was expecting. Instead of a new title based on the DDLC characters and the ones in the hidden files, fans were instead treated to what appeared to be a remaster of the original game and some more content. Even the title sounded like just an extension of the original game, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. Some were upset with this, especially when they saw that the trailer for it advertised that the game was a horror game. This took away the initial shock value that the game had, which made it great. But when the game was released, it had more than what people expected. Another quick intermission here. I'm going to spoil a bit of what has been found in the new game. If you want to find it yourself, I'd advise you go do that now, as I'm about to describe what can be found. Or you could skip ahead to the timestamp on screen now. Anyways, when the game was finally launched, I myself went diving into the files immediately. What I was able to find by myself were several text files that had notes written by new characters being introduced. They were supposedly regular workers for the company that paired with Team Salvato to make DDLC Plus. Many of these were buried within the 0 to 5 folders that can be found in the game's internal backup system folder. There are a lot of text files that are unavailable, but I think as time goes on, we are going to see a lot more truth revealed about this game. Whether people know it or not, I think that this might be a distractor or a lead up to the game fans have been waiting for. And it's things like this that makes DDLC an amazing game. From the music, to the art, to the scares, and to the story, this game is truly a game changer. In conclusion, Doki Doki Literature Club has changed the world of horror and visual novels. It shows people that anyone can play their visual novels, or at least this one. The way it fakes players out with its face value of being a fun and sweet game is deceivingly brilliant. The multiple times it goes out of its way to hide important details to a bigger story that still has missing pieces is exciting to watch unfold. I can't wait to see what comes next in the story. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.